call you Amanda or
Amanda is
Dr.
fine.
Bowen?
Anyone you want to use interchangeably.
Yeah, but which one are you most comfortable with?
Amanda is
Really?
fine.
Do you still go by Dr. Bowen?
If people see me and say Dr. Bowen, I'll answer, but I'm not introducing myself as Dr. Bowen and for the most part. So
Do you introduce yourself any at all as Dr. Bowen?
it
Or
depends on
Dr. Amanda Bowen?
it depends on where we are. Yes, I might. But for the most part I just say Amanda.
Uh-huh. The last time we spoke, you told me you're thinking about the renewal thing. You did that, or you know?
It's so funny that's the first thing you mentioned because I called them the other day and it absolutely today's what? I think I called them yesterday or the day before yesterday and it makes absolutely no sense because the lady's telling me I never practiced last year, so I never renewed nothing last year. Obviously I missed the beginning of this year as well, so fine. She's gonna tell me that I need to pay for renewal for last year that I missed, which makes no sense to me. Apparently last year was 16,000 and then because I'm late on last year I must pay a late fee which is 50% of the 16.
So
16 and 8, that's 24, right?
Plus this year 16.
Plus this year they had raised it from 16 to 24. So I must pay for the 24.
48,000.
Not just for the 24, but I'm also late. And that's a 50% off this year. So that's $60,000. And then on top of that, in order to renew this thing, you have to do CMEs. You have to pay to go to the CMEs. And I have to get 22 credits and 2 must be ethics, 2 must be mental. And I'm just like, I must pay. And it makes no sense. And then the lady on the phone was quite rude, calling me little girl and this and that and whatever. And I'm just like, who you think you're talking to? And just being in her talking to her, it just takes me back to why sometimes I just don't want to deal with that environment. And, obviously it's on the phone, so people don't know how to, when they're talking to you, I guess because it's on the phone, they feel they can't talk to you anyhow. And then afterwards, she was like, if you have your car and you have to renew that, I'm just like, if you have your car and you weren't driving it for the entire year, and you go to pay for the licensing or whatever it is, the fitness or whatever, they don't tell you that you have to pay for the previous year, right? And that's just fact. So you were talking about if you have a car and you have insurance, and I was like, no, if I have a car and I parked it for the entire year, if I moved abroad and I parked that car for the entire year, I'm not going to be paying insurance for the year that I did not use. I'm just like, what's even the point of me thinking to renew this thing? I was thinking along the lines of sometimes, so I went to Mobile High and like I'm in the past student group and so forth. Sometimes they're just like, they're looking for doctors to volunteer to come and do some of these stuff. And I'm just like, that is the main reason right now in my head that I have why I would want to renew my medical license. But I said I was going to call and see if I could talk to somebody else to see, because that makes absolutely no sense. Because I don't see why I must pay for I did not use it last year. First of all, if the rest of the year finished and I did not use it, I don't even see why I must pay for this year. I don't. If I could start afresh next year, if next year it's 24, or probably go up to 32 for all I know next year. Because why is the price doubling as well? It was 16 and then you go from 16 to 24. Next year you're going to go up to 32. Only God knows, right? Makes no sense to me.
I think it has a lot to do with just our government system.
No, it's government. It's just money making. Point blank, it's just money making. Because if I went abroad, if I left here, like a lot of my colleagues would go abroad to the USMLE or PLAB, Toronto, Canada, wherever they go. If they go abroad to study, and say they go abroad to study and do a residency program abroad, and it's 4 or 5 years, and they come back to Jamaica and they want to renew, right? The medical license in Jamaica would have been on pause because they would have been abroad practicing. So you mean to tell me that after they spend 4 or 5 years abroad and they want to come back to Jamaica, they must pay for the past 5 years? That's money making. That's money making. That's all that it is. Point blank and period. Money making.
That's a topic that particularly the government part of it is something I want to get into. But before we get into the meat of the matter, allow me to give you a summary of what this podcast is about and why you are one of my most interesting guests. Today, I said I was going to bring something to show you, but later on I'll show it to you. About 8 months ago, sometime last year, before I came back to Jamaica, I came up with this idea that I wanted to do this podcast. And when I started jotting down my initial ideas, I had a little target list of some persons who I thought about them and would be some good guests. And your name, Dr. Amanda Bowen, was on that very first list. And it was because I learned about 876 Adventures. But in short, this is what it is, right? As a midrep over the past, call it a decade now, I would have met countless amount of doctors right across Jamaica, from St. Thomas all the way back to Negril Point, right? I worked in Kingston, Portland, St. Ann, all of those parishes. There are probably two parishes I've never worked in as a midwife, and that's St. Elizabeth and Manchester. All right. Now, I meet a wide diaspora of doctors, doctors fresh out of med school, doctors who are retired, retiring, doctors who retire and still come back. You know, I meet doctors who spend the entire career in the public system. I meet doctors who do both. And then you have these doctors who transition. You have ones who transition from medicine over into business. And then you have other doctors, which the majority is getting so big now, people like you, who leave medicine or you move away from medicine into other businesses that is not even related to medicine. And fortunately, I happen to know so many persons now who have started other business ventures outside of medicine, right? At the same time, you do have doctors who are in the system. They want to leave. They don't know how to leave for whatever reason. You know, everybody have their own personal life issues, right? And they all make their own choices. But I would have met countless amount of doctors who dread leaving it, who dread being doctors, but at the same time, they fear leaving. You ask a question like, what would you do otherwise? And they'll be like, I don't see myself doing anything else otherwise, you know. So these are the things that you experience over the years as a midwife. So the Mindset Podcast, A Doctor's Diary, is really to have real life conversations with medical professionals across Jamaica. Well, starting with Jamaica, and hopefully, God's willing, the aim is to go global and create an education system. I want to create a nice little education system or package that teaches you everything med school doesn't teach you. Everything you need to know about business and real life that you don't learn in med school, that you don't get in any lecture from med school. Package it, a nice little buckle pretty much, and share it with the rest of the world. And my vision of doing that is by doing this. Meeting people, real people, getting those real life experiences, garner it and put in a nice little package and share it. That's the basic idea of this podcast, right? Now, with that being said, I'm going to give you the floor. To give us a little idea, a brief idea of, you know, who you are, your background, and what do you do. And I will add that, no, let's link up after this slide. The floor is yours.
Okay, so my name is Amanda Bowen, or maybe I should say Dr. Amanda Bowen. I am 31 years of age, and I own and operate a tour and transportation company here in Jamaica called Amanda's 806 Adventure Tours and Travel Agency, right? So, as I mentioned before, I am a doctor. I did medical school. I worked at Corner Regional Hospital for some years. After my contract had ended, I went on what we call an end of contract break. I am still on that break.
How long is that?
It's been 3 years, but I'm still on that break.
3-year break.
There's no limit to the break. Technically, that's the correct term is an end of contract break.
Okay.
I never broke my contract. I waited until my contract was done. I did my years. When my contract was done, the plan at the time, because the contract ended in June, was just to take the summer for myself. Because you see, when you do medical school down here in Jamaica, for the foreigners that are listening, you know, med school is 5 years, and it's an intense 5 years. After the first year of med school, you don't get a summer break after that. So it's just going. And then that's finished. You're going to internship. That finish SHO. That finished. By the time you finish SHO, it's just like, yo, this life decision, or which residency, which program, whatever. I went into peds. I like pediatrics. I love children. I cannot stand adult medicine. And you know, I like peds. I still do like peds. I love children. To this day, I worked on the NICU. I loved working on the NICU. It was never a matter of me not liking medicine in terms of the art of medicine or helping people. That was never it. You know, and then after a while, you know, sometimes you have to take a step back, look at your life, look at where you want your life to be, how you want to live your life, and then, you know, make a decision and move from there. So I waited until my contract ended. I remember my contract ended in June, but my birthday is also in June. So I'd actually saved up my vacation days. So even though the contract ended June 30th, I had my vacation days starting from like the 8th or so of June. So I left for Japan. I left for vacation and never came back because my vacation was supposed to go from the 8th of June to when the contract ended. And I had applied for renewal of the contract for September. because I said I wanted to take the summer. I just wanted a summer for myself because remember, like I said, med school, you don't get summer breaks
So
after the first year. So
break between the years.
I just wanted the summer. I started doing the business. If I'm doing tours and transportation, if I don't make it throughout the summer, then when can I ever make it? That's when a lot of people are traveling to Jamaica. So I just wanted the summer. I wanted the summer to do what I wanted to do, to, go here, go there, and try myself with the business. And, I planned on coming back in September. That was the plan. But then they called early to say that they were extremely short staffed. And I mean, hospital is forever going to be short staffed. Every hospital, every public hospital in Jamaica will always be short staffed.
That's so fair.
And then they asked for me to come back in August, the beginning of August at that. But I wanted to come back in September. And I told them no. And I just haven't been back since.
So what transpired between July and September in that month of August? What mindset shift clicked for you? Like what sparked, what made you come to the decision that, you know what, I'm not going back?
To be very honest, it kind of happened even before my contract ended, if I'm being honest. Working. You see, I tell people all the time, when you pray for the job, pray for a good work environment. Right? Pray for a good work-life balance. Pray for really good, people to work with. Not saying that I never had all of those per se, right? But the work hours, certain things that were lacking, the work environment, some certain stuff, it was just, afterwards I took a step back and I looked and I was just like, this is not for me. And I made up my mind. It was the very 1st of November, 2021.
But I know you'd have passed September already.
No, it was before September. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, the year before. Okay.
I was saying, that's what I was saying. Before my contract even ended, I already made up my mind. So that's why I was going to take that break, which is why I had planned my vacation like that. I saved it up. I planned it. I was just like, I'm just going to take the vacation and just take a break.
You started your YouTube channel. When did you start Amanda's 876 Adventures? Really?
Amanda's 876 Adventures started from 2017, if we're being honest. That's when my Instagram started in 2016, 2017. I was still in med school. I remember I said those. Whenever we got any summer breaks like that, but we would do 10-week rotations at a time. And at the end of each 10 weeks, so we'd go from, like, so we'd do 10 weeks ups and then we're going to 10 weeks of internal medicine, rotating through different hospitals. But in between those 10 weeks, you get one blessed weekend.
One weekend.
There's other weekends, obviously, but that weekend was definitely a very free weekend where, you don't have any tests or any exam or whatever, because you're transitioning from one specialty to another to study. So that weekend was always a special weekend. And during those weekends, you would go India and everywhere. I'd go to rivers, beaches, here, there. So, and I would always post on my regular Instagram, but then I decided to make a page for it. So 2017, I made my Amanda's 876 Adventure page. And then 2020 was when, January 2020, before COVID, was when I made my YouTube channel.
And then COVID just come and shake up things.
COVID came, but even though COVID came, I still decided I was gonna post regardless. So.
But you were traveling, so you're a nature person.
Yeah.
You like traveling.
I love traveling.
You love traveling. What made you decide to turn this into a business?
Well, truth be told, again, the whole thing of me doing the tours and transportation was a decision I made from late 2019.
Would you say this is like a passion for you?
It is because essentially what's really happened is that at the end of 2019, again, I took a step back and I look at my life, which is something I do quite every couple of years. I do that. But I took a step back and I look at my life and I decided, before that, I would always be the one to do a lot of group trips. With work, I'd have friends. I'd be like, guys, let's go here. I would plan it. I would organize it. I would post on my Instagram. People would see. They'd be so interested. They want to come. And I was just like, I don't know you. And then my sister was just like, you could put on trips and like charge people to come with you. And I was just like, I mean, I could, but And then she was just like, no, no, you should do that because people kept asking. And what I find is that even when you give people step by step instruction on where to go, how to get there, they still don't.
they
They still
still
don't.
they still get lost.
Exactly. They get lost or they prefer to go with our group.
Mm.
So in 2020, I decided that, listen, I'm going to start a tour and transportation company. That's when I decided. So the aim for that was actually, and it's something I always say, Jamaica is for Jamaicans. So the aim was to do local trips where people could feel comfortable, coming with other persons, exploring different parts of the island. I wanted to go each parish, wanted to touch each parish so each person could, if you stick around and you come to all the trips, you would have get to see all of Jamaica. Because again, for some people, even if they have a vehicle, they don't want to travel that far, they don't want to travel by themselves, they're
Afraid of the
afraid, this, that,
journey.
and that, third. So I remember starting, I said I was going to do that in 2020. COVID came. Because January I'd made a flyer for that trip, and then COVID came. I had to cancel that, and then tried again later on in the year. I think I did the first trip later on in the year when COVID wasn't that bad, and started doing the YouTube. The YouTube was again like a travel diary for myself, as well as to promote those trips, so people can see them, so people can, I'm a visual person, so I like to post pictures and videos. That's my thing. So I'm just like, if people are seeing these stuff, then they're gonna see what the trips will be like, and they would want to come. So that was the aim with the YouTube channel, and it started there. And then obviously I do some other little stuff, and from that, I had a lot of foreigners reaching out to me. They were reaching out to me asking, hey, do you do tours? Is it that you just do trips with locals? Like, do you do this, that, and the third? And I would always tell them no. Initially, in the beginning, I would always tell them no. And then November 2021, I decided, you know what? I said I was going to, at a paper, I wrote down stuff in the end of 2019. Start YouTube channel, start tour company, this, that, whatever. 5 things I wrote on it. I was just like, long ago I said I'm gonna do this tour and transportation company. You know what? Let me try it. So that's when I decided.
You just try.
Yeah, I mean nothing. I mean, if you try, you would living a life. Why not? I have absolutely nothing to lose. Nothing. I had absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain. So why not?
That leads me to something, right? So in a previous discussion, I had a deep conversation about passion and people being able to discover what their passion is. Because mind you, you still do have a lot of doctors who are deeply passionate about being doctors. Don't get me wrong, right? Now, because of my introduction, you have doctors who are religiously passionate about being doctors.
That is very true.
Yeah, I know doctors who are, consultants who have retired and they're still so in love with being doctors that even though they're retired, they're still seeing patients and they come back to it and stuff like that, right? But then the question was raised, why is it that more of your colleagues don't discover? Why is it that more doctors don't discover their passion? Like, why do you think?
Why do I think?
And here's where I'm coming from with that. I personally met doctors who, as a med rep, you go into them office, and I'm a people person. I'm an extrovert. I study people. I study psychology, right? And you can read a room over time. You develop discernment. And sometimes we walk in our office, whether at the health center or in a private office, and you can tell that they're not really here, And then some of those conversations would lead down to, I'm here, but we don't really want there, so to speak. But we don't know where else today, so to speak. And those things happen a lot.
Yeah.
I don't understand why I'm being a medical doctor. So for you who have discovered a passion, my question to you is, why is it that more doctors don't discover their passion? And how would you suggest that some of these some listeners who are listening to this part of the podcast can discover their passion?
Well,
if it's not medicine.
Like I said, for me, I always, any friend of mine, anybody that knows me knows, I love rivers. And it's so weird because people be like, oh, man, what you do in your spare time? I'll go to a river. I'll go to a waterfall if there's a new one to try and find. If you and I are friends and I've never taken you to a river or a waterfall, are we really friends?
That's a question I like if you answer after.
So regarding the passion, that was something that I've always loved and adored ever since I was a child. Some people, they truly don't really know what their passion is. And, some of them do know what it is, and some of them might be afraid to go into that direction. Or the long and short of it, especially now we're here as adults, for a lot of people is just like, can that pay the bills? That's what's really and truly the long and short of it. So sometimes there might be a passion that's there, but with each and every passion is something that you have to put some amount of time into it.
Correct.
But if it's something that you're truly passionate about, you won't feel any way putting time into it. No, medicine is one of those things. It takes a lot of your time.
And
When I tell you that it takes, even when you feel like you don't want it to, if you're going into medicine, it's going to take a lot of your time, whether working, studying, whatever the case might be. It takes up so much of your time. So even if some people, if they do have a passion,
they don't
say their
get
passion is
over it.
cars. Say your passion is cars.
Alright.
Men love cars. Like some might be fixing up the car or like pimping out the car in a different way or whatever. That takes time. You have to, if it's an old car or you want to work on or whatever, but at the end of the day,
Like a
thing is,
project car.
yeah, you have to set aside some time for it, right? Even if you don't feel like, sometimes if you're not necessarily passionate about something, that's fine enough. And everybody won't find their passion immediately. Some might find it later in life, right? I saw this thing on Instagram the other day where this young man had his girlfriend, wanted to cut back on bills and costs, and he said he wouldn't do his girlfriend nails. And he found out he really loved doing it. That's his passion now.
And
You get me?
He build something out of it.
Right? Exactly. Not every passion will necessarily lead to an income. I'm fortunate where I have been able to turn mine into an income, thank the Lord. Right? But not every passion will be like that. And because of that, some people, like you said, whether medicine or even whatever other career they might be in, sometimes they feel stuck. Which, and for me, like I said, I had absolutely nothing to lose. Again, what everybody needs to understand as well is that everybody is at a different part in their life. The human race, as we call it, alright, so it's a race, it's a lineup. Some persons are in different parts of the line. Some are at the line, some they're behind the line, some they're halfway to the finish line, some they're already in front of the finish line. Everybody's at different points in their life.
So they find them where they are.
Right, lucky for me, I did not have to be worrying about other stuff. Because sometimes when you leave a profession, right, in order for you to leave, some people always be like, oh, sure for unsure, you're earning a steady income now versus, going into a business where you might not have a steady income or, those type of stuff.
That fear factor.
Fear factor. So, and, when you have a lot of responsibilities, you're going to more than likely stick with sure instead of exploring unsure. Because for me, again, thankfully, a big shout out to my lovely parents, right, Maria and Owen. I didn't have to worry about student loans. I didn't have to worry about rent. I didn't have to worry about a mortgage. I didn't have to worry about bills, or I don't have any children. I can big up to my parents. They're both fit and healthy. I don't have to worry about ailing parents that I'll have to take care of. A lot of doctors, nurses, who say whatever profession, they will be making a certain amount of money. But when you look at, you take out student loan, you take out mortgage, you take out car loan, you take out kids, you take out medication for the parents and the
All
grandparents.
the expenses.
It's you don't have time to be thinking about passion.
So
they're in survival mode, unfortunately.
I've always you mentioned survival mode, and that is something I actually studied about, and I've learned that you really can't grow in survival mode.
You can't. It's crippling at times, but on the flip side, where some people are genuinely like that and it's a struggle, there are also other people who they live above their means. I see that all the time. And I'm somebody where, I'm again, shout out to my parents, I guess how I was raised, but you don't live above your means. You get me? If you can't afford certain stuff, you leave it alone. Unfortunately, sometimes as well with certain things, some people move along those lines and, that cripples them. But one of the main things outside of me mentioning you needing a steady income or whatever, while people don't follow their passion, is the fear. It's a fear of what if this doesn't work out? And even with me, I'm like, my thing, it had to work out. I knew it would work out.
Did you ever question yourself at any point?
At no point. It would have to work out. I was going to do everything to make sure it works out.
So you made a deep subconscious decision.
Yes. Right? Because I was just like, different people are like, if I good work, if I do this, if I do that. That's how people are. If I had taken this path and I was struggling, that is what people would have said.
Stay in your secure job.
Right? Without a doubt. Right? And a good job. And parents and pay for school and then pay. That's how people are.
Did you get a lot of that? Or did you get any of that criticism?
Not necessarily. Like my parents, I mean, obviously they're gonna think about it. Like they might have been like, "What am I doing?" You know, why wouldn't they? You get me?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they? But I'd be lying if I said they weren't supportive. And that's another thing, to have a support system. Have a good support system where people actually believe in what you're doing.
Mhm.
You know, and they back you. You know, you can go to them with ideas, and it. You know, they see how they float things with them. All of those stuff, it matters. But again, anybody leaving medicine, if somebody that you love don't come to you and be like, "What are you doing? Are you sure?" Then that actually would be weird. Obviously, somebody's going to come and ask you some type of question like, "What are you doing?" It's expected. Like, you literally, I spent the last 10 years of my life from between medicine, between schooling and actually working. It's a whole decade of adulthood, be trying to become a doctor. And then just decide one day and just cancel. Yeah, I'm gonna do something else. I tell people in this day and age that we live in, you can recreate yourself in so many ways and so many times. You know, it's possible to do that. And, you know, for some, again, if it's just money, the main reason why you're in doing something,
Mhm.
and there's no love behind it, it's gonna drain you after a while. You know, you're gonna be miserable if it's just money. And if it's just money as well, there's so many ways to make money in this day and age. You know, you have people out here sending pictures of their toes on OnlyFans. You know, so everything.
You got options.
Yeah, you have options,
options.
and even with me, as much as I had made the decision in November of 2021 that I was going to explore the tours and transportation, I was going to look into it.
Mhm.
I had absolutely no idea how the business ran or how, the qualifications or what I needed or whatever. I just went and started. People were reaching out. And that's like one thing that I would say I had that maybe some people don't necessarily have. It's not like something that there wasn't a market for me. People were reaching out to me, asking me beforehand if I would do this, if I would do tours or whatever. And I was doing those on the weekends while I was working at the hospital. If I had a weekend duty or weekend call, I would give it away. So from November, come right back round, I would give it away and I would just work on the
You
weekends.
found a way to, even though you were still working under the same pressure, the same system,
Yeah.
as a medical doctor, to start incorporating other things into your life, which
Yeah, I was just like-
eventually pulled you out entirely.
I was just like, why not make some USD? I can put it towards me traveling and stuff. Like, why not? So
This leads me to this question. Right? So, you, from my discovery and my research, right? I'm not sure if you know the extent to which that you are showing an inspiration to a lot of people. You are an inspiration to a lot of persons. I can tell you that. For confidentiality sake, clearly I'm not going to mention. But you are an inspiration to a lot of people. There are several colleagues, or I travel within the medical field, that looks up to you and be like, "Oh, Amanda," right? So, and I think most of those persons are people who probably are burnt out from working in the medical system.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're still passionate about it or not, I couldn't tell. But there is that inspiration for a colleague that is probably looking to start a business outside of medicine,
Yeah.
or might want to look into other ventures. What's a good business advice you would give to those colleagues?
Start. I tell people all the time, just start. If you start and it don't work out, it don't work. But you will never live your life thinking about, oh, I wish I had tried, or I wish I did this, or that's one way I never want to live my life. Right? I have a tattoo right on the back right here. It says, "My fear is my only courage." Right? Don't let the fear cripple you. Let it motivate you. Just start. When you're starting, you won't know everything.
Fear is a crippling thing,
Yeah,
It's
don't
a
let
very hard
it cripple you. I tell people this all the time. Sometimes I think like the amygdala part of my brain, it's not working. That's a center that deals with fear. Because I'm not fearful of most things, in my opinion. But don't let it cripple you. Just start. Do some research. There's YouTube. There's so many things out there for you to get information. So many ways for you to know whatever it is. Look into the market that you're doing. How are you gonna get your clientele? For me, my clientele for my business mostly comes from YouTube. People find me on YouTube, they see the videos, they like my personality or whatever it is, and they reach out, and from there you'll get word of mouth referrals, social media as well, Instagram, TikTok. That's where I get my clients from. That's where people find me. I don't have anything where I sit at a hotel, like some other tour operators or have any travel agents. See, that's working with me or anything. Just people find me from YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, social media. Put yourself out there. If you don't put yourself out there, how are people going to know that you are doing anything or you have anything?
There's a common saying in sales that people can't buy if they don't know what you're selling.
Exactly.
You know.
So that's, if you have a business idea, start small, and then you have to put out time for it, and not just starting is important, but being consistent. That's the other thing. When I started my YouTube channel, there were so many other persons that I know closely who had started their YouTube channel at the same time that I did, and I was looking up to them because they had more subscribers, they had more content. I was asking them stuff, and they were doing it a little bit before I did. It's been 5 years. The time goes by so quickly since I started that YouTube channel. And while, I'm not where I want to be, but at the end of the day, if it takes me 20 years to get there, I'm still going to be so proud of getting there. You get me? So, start and be consistent. I think that's what beats a lot of people.
The
Consistency.
consistency.
Listen to me. Consistency kills a lot of people. They start something today, then put it down. They don't, the one bad thing will happen, then just throw it aside. And if it's something that you truly want to do, start. Be consistent. Try and learn about the market, whatever it is. See where your possible clientele can come and set aside some time. Set aside some time. Like I said, when you're on medicine, that's the biggest thing. The biggest thing is to find time. And you have to set those boundaries. When you're in medicine, set boundaries. People not gonna like you for it, but that's fine. People will not like you for it. I set my boundaries when I was there. Set boundaries. If I'm not working, don't call me. The hospital don't start and stop with me. You get me? On my weekends when I'm not working, I'm at a river. I'm somewhere in the hills, in the mountains. If you call me, you won't get me. So don't even bother try to call me. I'm unavailable. The hospital doesn't start and it doesn't stop with me. You get me? So, and if you have a doctor office, obviously the doctor office will have opening and closing hours. You get me? Stick with those opening and closing hours. Even to this day, I have my business. Till last night, somebody found my business WhatsApp number. Calling me at 11 o'clock at night. Why? No. You get me? You just leave it alone. You watch it ring and you leave it alone. I'm not answering. So set the boundaries. Set aside some time for whatever it is that you think you want to do. If it means that much to you, then you'll find time for it. Whatever that means, some amount that values, you're going to find time for it.
I took a look at your channel. It's quite interesting. I am in that shoe when you started, we're looking up. I'm in that shoe right now. You have amassed over 15,000 subscribers.
Yes.
On YouTube. That's it.
Probably like.
And a whopping 130 plus thousand following on Instagram. In such a short space of time. And that is with Amanda's 876 Adventures. So it's safe to applaud you to say that your business is growing. It's on an upward trajectory, right? Walk us through that process as a fellow business owner or other entrepreneurs. And let me just add this in. In a previous conversation, I said med school teach you how to diagnose and treat. Right? Med school doesn't teach you anything about business.
This is very true.
It doesn't teach you anything about business. For example, you can know how to sell water.
Yeah.
You're good at selling water. You're a brilliant salesperson. You can sell water to the CEO of Captain Speak, right? To the executive, to the president, to anybody at all. You're good at selling water. You know the pitches. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you know how to run a water business.
That's true.
Because running a business and selling the product is two different arguments entirely, right? You have moved from being a doctor, diagnosing and treating. You go through an education system that didn't teach you anything about operating a business at all.
That is very
Into
true.
now operating a growing, booming business with over 15,000 subscribers on your channel.
Well,
Educated.
that is true. Medicine, when you're in medicine, medicine just teaches you medicine.
Teach you to be a good doctor.
Not even that. It just teaches you medicine. When you're being a good doctor isn't taught in med school. You're taught medicine in med school. When you're interacting with people, how you interact with people, the impression you leave on people, that is what actually makes you a good doctor. You
Yeah,
could
but
be the best surgeon in the world. If your attitude stink, sometimes when you have the relatives, and that's what they're gonna remember. But anyways, that's a different conversation. But um, business, it's one of those things you learn along the way. It's one of those things you learn along the way because, as I mentioned before, nobody never, there's a lot of, and I, doing this tour thing, there's so much that I learned along the way. I never learned what a TCC is. And for other persons who don't know, that's a tax compliance certificate. I never knew what a TCC is until I started looking into registering my tour company. Because it's a requirement, by Transport Authority. I have to get everything together. A lot of people don't know what TCC is. And like I said, those are the things you learn along the way, because, and regarding running a business, you always have to be a continuous inflow. You have to make sure you try your best to keep your expenses low. I have this business. People be like, do you have an office? No, I don't. Why would I need an office? That's an unnecessary expense. Everything is online. Let's spend money on renting an office space. Why? That's a waste of money. So you have to look at ways to keep your expenses low. And again, that is a business thing. But then again, for me, it goes back to how I was raised. Shout out to my parents again. Because
did your parents teach you business strategies? So
I wouldn't say they taught me business strategies per se, directly like that. But they did. My dad owns and operates his own business for the longest while. Shout out to my father, aka Reggae. From Montego, you know him. So I mean, that was one of the other things. Like, I was never raised in a family where I saw like my parents doing 9 to 5 or whatever. Like, my dad owned his own business. My mom never worked until like I was in high school. So my dad, it was a very traditional thing with them. And then even when my mom started working, she was the boss of her own thing. She worked for 5 years and then she came out of it, and she's a housewife. So it when you grow in a environment like that, where you see your parents are entrepreneurs as well, like, it motivates you as well to be an entrepreneur. And even the fear factor of it is gone, because you don't mind making a business out of anything. But, and sometimes people will be like, oh, you're going to leave the hospital. Why don't you just open a private practice? That's a business as well. So it doesn't even matter if I'm doing this tour business or if I had a private practice. A business is a business. You need an inflow of people who are going to come and ask for your business, whether it's they're going to come to see you as a doctor, or in my case, they're going to come and book tours with me. I need an inflow. I need to market myself so that I will have that continuous inflow. And then I need to keep my expenses low. And then I need to see how best I can grow as well. You have to look at all of those stuff. And I feel like those are just the basic. I think once you have that, the business will just eventually run itself, and most importantly, once you're offering good service, whatever the business might be, once you're offering good service, the people will come back. They will come back and they will refer you to other persons, and that will allow it to grow over time.
Yeah, the majority of doctors though would look into opening a private office.
Yeah, man.
That's probably like 80 to 90% of the population
every single last one of them
would move into opening a private office. So
I commend every single last one of them that does it. That's something I couldn't do, because I personally cannot sit in one place for 9 to 5. I've never had a 9 to 5. I tell people that and they're so shocked. I worked at the hospital. Working at the hospital is at a 9 to 5. The hours are all over the place. I have never done a 9 to 5. I would say when I was at type 5, when I did my rotation as a SHO at type 5, I would say that was the closest thing I had to a 9 to 5, and I hated it. I hated every second of being down there, sitting down. Patient comes in and
so now you understand what I mean when I said that sometimes you go in some offices and just sit with it. As a people person, you can just pick it up.
My personality, I just cannot be sitting down in one place, and then depending on what you're seeing and the number of patients. And so my thing was one where I wanted to spend time with each patient. I did not, you can't be spending so much time with one patient with the amount of patients sitting outside. But yeah, just in general, I just don't like sitting down at a table for that long of a time, just sitting down. I don't know. It just
wasn't your thing.
Yeah, that's just not me. Yeah, it's not me. It's there for other people, and a lot of people work, but it's not for me. But whether you leave and open up a private practice, or you leave to be a doctor that works at someone else's private practice, or you go into a completely different business, at the end of the day, it's still a business. So whether or not I open a practice here and here, it was still going to be a business that I would have to market and figure out how it was going to work out.
Would you advise or recommend looking into business options outside of the field of medicine?
If I would, yeah, I would always recommend that. I would always
Why?
recommend that.
That begs a why. That
Why
begs a
not?
why.
But why not? Why wouldn't you if you're in medicine? Because remember, for me, when I did the tour thing, in truth be told, the plan was to go back. The plan was to get the tour company going, the bar going, and I would go back, right?
Do you still consider going back to medicine now?
I say never. Never say this and one of the other again. Right now, this lady with when I call her and tell her about the medical license, just let me really reconsider everything altogether. But as I mentioned, I'm gonna see if I can talk to somebody else. But I never say never. I I love children. So I wouldn't mind going back to pediatrics. Ideally, in an ideal world, for me, I would love to work like pediatrics A&E. And my thing is, you see, if I could have set hours where I know these are the set hours I'm going to work at the hospital, just those set hours, I can mentally prepare myself. If the set hour is going to be from 12 a.m. to 4 a.m., 12 a.m. to 8 a.m., or 8 a.m. to 12 p.m.,
All
if
of
I could
those.
have just, if it, no, it's not even the hours being all of it. If it's, say Monday, I'm going to be doing 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And Tuesday, you say, well, we want you to do 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. If those hours can be presented beforehand, this is the hours you're going to do. I can mentally prepare myself. I can plan a schedule around that. And I know the world could be falling down. I just know those are the hours I'm going to do. Once I come, I do my hours, I hand over, I'm done. I move on. In an ideal world, I would want to be like, but you see, on call, never again. I don't think I could ever go back to that. I could never see myself going back to that.
What was so horrible about being on call?
On call, it's
Yesterday I was talking to a friend of mine that said she
the
was
biggest thing for me, and is the lack of sleep. I am somebody I like to sleep through the hours. I don't have any children, so my thing was, if I don't have any children, I don't see why I had to be not sleeping through the night. I don't have any youngster. I don't have any babies, so sleep is so important. Sleep is I don't think sleep is so important. Every night I get 8 hours or more, and I love that for me. I love that for me. I have PTSD from my phone being on load when I was on call. Sometimes even when you're on call and you have a nice call, as in when I say nice call, that means there's nobody's calling you, nothing is happening. You get me?
That
It's
is
just like
a nice call.
that's a nice call. Nothing is happening. It's a quiet night. But even because it's so quiet, it's like in the back of your mind, you're just like, what's happening? Is my phone on loud? You wake up and you check your phone. Or, you wake up and you're just like, you still can't sleep. You're restless.
That's real PTSD.
You're restless. Because it is a nice call, but why is the night so quiet? In the back of your mind, you're just like, there's something wrong with the phone. Like, you can't nurse, is everything, I could never, the on-call thing, I do not miss that. At not one bit. I don't know if any doctor, well, some people, they're night owls. I have a very active circadian rhythm, and if there's light shining and those stuff, I can't sleep. So I need to sleep at night, and I need 8 hours or more. So I would never go back to that. It's very good for your health. So funny because doctors are all about people's health, and some of them have the worst health ever.
In my world, as a midwife, there's a common saying that we go by. Doctors are the worst patients.
True.
Worst. They seriously lack sleep. And for the love of me, this part I cannot understand. They don't eat. Doctors take care of everybody else except themselves. I cannot fathom it. I don't cannot fathom it. It's a very common thing. Right? They're always, you're at the office early, you're not eating breakfast properly. In a previous post, I used to market a PPI. Right? And if I tell you the amount of that, sometimes when I see my phone ring, I just know some because I want some to have that PPI.
Yeah. I was one of those doctors. Yeah, that is very true. But and even when I had my interns, I would always tell my interns, because I would see a lot of them, like, they would be running off of energy drinks, and I'd be like, did you eat? That's one of the things I would always ask them, did you eat? Ensure that you eat, get something to eat, go and get some rest. I would always tell them that. I'm not like that. I'm gonna eat. I would be late for clinics and those stuff sometimes because my mother makes breakfast. I'm gonna sit. First of all, my mother thinks it's disrespectful when I don't sit and eat her breakfast. She woke up and made food. Like, Traditional housewife, my mother.
Tradition.
I'm not missing the food. I'm gonna eat. Sometimes that breakfast is the one proper meal I'll get for the day. I'm not missing breakfast. You get me? So the only time I would say that I had missed breakfast was when I was on internal medicine rotation as an intern. And even at that time, even though I had missed breakfast at home, the hospital had oats porridge that would always serve the patients. It was so good. I would take one. I would tell the guy to put an extra one out there for me. It was really good. That oats porridge was really good. Brought me through, but I'm not missing breakfast.
How would you advise other colleagues who go through the whole day and only eat probably one time
Go
a
and
day,
eat.
if
Eat.
any time at all,
Eat.
and they tell you, oh, they don't have time?
Go and eat. Try and get some rest. All of these extra shift, extra hours that you're doing, give it away to somebody else. Try and see how best you can give it away. The reality is the hospital is very short staffed. I said this before and I said it many times. The hospital is short staffed. Right? How?
I mean, there's so many new doctors
So
graduating every single year.
there's two aspects to it, right? So the hospital is short staffed because one, there's not a lot of doctors or even nurses that are there, right? And then because of that, people have to be taking up extra hours. But some people do want the extra hours and the extra calls and the extra this and the extra that because they want to make more money. When you're on call, that's where you make the bulk of your money. Because, and I tell people all the time, it's just like if you have your regular 9 to 5, if your boss was to say to you, listen, I want you to come in and work right throughout the night, and I'm going to pay you double or time and a half. You would probably make the same amount of money that doctors do. Because the doctors are literally up right throughout the night being on call. That's where you make most of your money. You get me? So it's short staff because one, some of the areas, because you have different specialties. Remember, there's OBS, there's pediatrics, there's internal medicine, A&E, this, that, the third. There's a lot of different stuff. Some doctors don't necessarily want to work in some of those specialties. They think a lot of people hate kids. They don't want to work with children. They don't want to be in peds. And then they might have other areas where maybe you do want to work in peds, but the amount of positions or posts that are open for you to work there, it's not a lot. So you cannot work in pediatrics. Or wherever the posts are available, it's in some far area where you don't want to go. You don't want to work there. Like me, I would never leave Montego Bay to work anywhere. You get me? So it's like it is, some areas are short staffed because of, people not necessarily, there's not enough posts in general and there need to be more posts. And then it's short staffed in the fact that some areas might be open for doctors to go and work, but they don't want to work in those areas. Like, or some doctors want to do ophthalmology, but there's not a lot of posts in ophthalmology, right? They might be available in pediatrics, but nobody wants to go for pediatrics. It varies. But the reality is, I think personally, we need to have more doctors. Here's what I think. I think if we have more doctors and nurses, right? If they open up more posts for these doctors and nurses, then doctors won't be so burnt out, right? And they will have better work-life balance and they can have time for other stuff because the workload will be evenly distributed amongst the doctors and the nurses if they get more, right? On the flip side, people will argue that where's the money going to come from to pay these additional doctors and nurses? Why pay more doctors and nurses when you can pay a small amount, right? You can pay a small amount and they still be doing the work and still seeing the same amount of patients regardless. But what comes with that is burnt out and probably poor customer service to patients and their relatives and just people just being tired and all of that. And then there's another flip side where some people, they might not even want for there to be more doctors or nurses, but because guess what? More doctors and nurses will come in and that means less on-call or less extra money for me to make. So there's a lot of dynamics to it.
That sounds like it's tied up a lot around the money aspect.
Yeah, I mean, that's what a lot of doctors are there. That's what they're there for, I promise you this, if some of them could have made the exact money that they're making now and do something else, a lot of them would be elsewhere. That's a fact.
I commonly hear things like, what else would I do? I don't see myself doing anything else. Or they're not able to envision themselves outside of the realm of being a doctor.
Yeah.
I hear that quite commonly. Not that I understand why. Could you shed some insight on that? I mean,
like you said, some of them, I guess, they don't know their passion, or some people, not everybody's an entrepreneur. It takes a lot.
Not for everybody. Agreed.
It takes a lot. Like I say, if the consistency of it all and not being panicky when things get slow. And there was stuff like it's not everybody's an entrepreneur. Just like how you have leaders and you have followers as content creators and you have people that watch it and engage. So some people don't look beyond that. I went to school, I did medicine, and this is it. And
just live their life.
just living it. Why would they complain? Like it's paying the bills. I'm able to do this. I'm able to do that. I can afford. And so it's, again, they just need to step back and take a look at their life. Sometimes what they need to is a little vacation. Let's take a little vacation. You find how clear in your mind and just going to somewhere different. It can bring so much insight into where you want your life to go.
I think they just grow complacent with. I just grow content with
or some
how
people,
it is.
whether even medicine or law or business, whatever it is that some people get stuck. Some people, they leave school, they find a job that if the aim of finding the job was just to initially help with bills or whatever, you just want to start work. And, sometimes you get stuck. I personally think every 3 to 5 years you should reevaluate your life and see how you're going to move forward. If it is that you're going to continue on the same path to get to a higher level or try something new. That's how I look at it. That's how I look at my life, at least.
With that being said, where do you see Amanda's 876 in the next 5 years?
Next 5 years. Well, for me, the aim of the game is to have fleets of buses and tours. Okay. Where I can, I would have people, a lot of drivers and so forth working for me. And I can look at, maybe I get up and look at the schedule and I'll be like, I'll do this one today. If I want to do this one, I can do this one. If I don't want to do it, I'll leave it alone. Branch off into, and my company is registered as a travel agency. So I've always wanted to branch off into that area because I do a lot of trips to other countries. Again, check out my YouTube channel. You can see all of those travel vlogs that I have: Costa Rica, Peru, Caribbean, playlists and stuff like that. So.
And you go on these trips as well.
People think I book trips for other persons. I don't. I just go, those are like my vacation. But my business is registered as a travel agency, so I would want to branch off into area where I can book these trips for people. But it's just that it's too much for me to handle all at once alone. So I would want somebody that I could trust and know or has insight on that aspect of it to come along and probably be a part of the business. Because I know if I look into that area and then I get it up and going, that's another branch of the business. I can definitely get an income from where I plan international trips for persons. You get it?
International travel.
So that's one thing, and I want to have fleet. Hopefully I can try my hand at getting one of these parks at one of these hotels. There's 3 new hotels being built here in Jamaica, in Montego Bay. So I'd love to be able to have a park at one of them just to see how it goes. See if it's worth the while and so forth. So, that's along with something else that I'm working on right now. But I don't like to talk about things before the time. But there's something else that I'm working on right at this moment, but I'm not going to mention it as yet, So in the next 5 years, that is where I want to be.
How far along are you now with, growing your fleet, so to speak?
I just have 2 vehicles, and I have access to a coaster, which I think is enough at this moment. I have a regular SUV. I have a Toyota Hiace that seats 14, and I have access to a coaster that seats 25 persons. So
see, it's a whole travel agency.
So that's the funny enough, when my contract was ending, I can't remember when. So I had a 2-year contract. When it was ending, they give, I don't know if they still do it. I'm trying to remember what they call the thing.
What, you're talking about the medicine contract?
Yeah, the medicine contract, man. When you're coming up on the end of your 2 years, there's this thing you can get, whether 2 or 3, you apply for it. Can't remember what it's called, but I applied for mine, and I made sure I applied for mine early. I applied for mine way before my contract ended because, with government and accounts, everything takes forever. So I applied for that, and I used that money to help buy the Toyota Hiace bus that I have, the 14-seater. So I used the money that I had got from medicine to buy that bus.
So you reinvest in your business.
Yeah, reinvest in yourself. I tell people all the time. People will be like, didn't they say this day and age, people are just like, oh, you need to have an investment account, invest in this stock, invest in that. And I don't understand stocks. I don't fully understand it. Invest in it. I'm gonna invest in myself. I'll bet on myself. In the end of the day. You know, some people can't bet on themselves. You know, I bet on myself. Yeah, I'm gonna reinvest. Even I did not take out a loan. I personally prefer to drain my bank account and buy a vehicle or asset, ensuring that I don't have any debts. I rather drain my account and do that. Anyways, when you do it like that, that's motivation. It has to work. You just spend much millions.
You burn up your own money.
Yeah. You get me? It must work. It must work. You know, instead of
You don't
taking out
leverage
loans.
debts, so to speak.
If I live,
Right? You don't leverage debts. I mean, you say you don't take out bank loans.
no, I don't.
That's using debt.
I don't.
I mean, and that's just working for you. Which is good. The majority, I think 9 out of 10 persons.
I thank the Lord for my parents every day. You know, they've raised me like that. My parents don't believe in loans like that per se. It was never something that they, you know. I know some people are, and I've spoken to some persons as well. They're just like, oh, just take out a loan, like other adults. I just take out a loan, like it's something casual. Oh man, you'll easily qualify for that, man. I'm just like, maybe I sit down and do the maths. Hold on, you know. Yeah, man, you can just take out a loan. I would rather, I will work, and I will scale back. You know, I'll make tuna wraps right throughout. You know, crackers and peanut butter. Yeah, just scale back where you can. You know. I remember even one other day when one of the things I was doing, I was like, I needed some money, and I guess I have 2 vehicles that are in my name, and they were out working, and I needed to go somewhere. I wasn't going to stop the vehicle from work. I took a taxi. After, I need to be somewhere, and other vehicles need to work. I'm going to take a taxi. I'm not too big for that.
You'd be surprised.
You know?
You'd be surprised.
I'm not too big for that.
Not doing that.
That's
not doing that.
And that's what makes me different from them.
I think they're just some of those unique characteristics.
You remember I was talking about you know, like the pride and the hype and the this and the some of them, you know, living above your means, you know. I see a lot of that. And when I was in medicine, I even know a lot of people live above their means, and you know, everybody is different.
You found your niche, and it's working for you.
And I thank the Lord every day. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. You know?
What are some of the coolest places you've discovered? I think so. Your adventures is surrounding, you know, finding hidden gems. So because you advertise in Jamaica, and you have traveled all 14 parishes by now, I presume.
Yeah, man.
Multiple times.
At least 3 times each parish. Yeah.
Right. If I was a tourist, or even a local, and I wanted to go on a trip somewhere, I'm gonna just say, I'm hit up Amanda, you know?
Yeah.
That's some of the coolest spots. I remember seeing a video of you on Instagram one time sliding down and sliding over you somewhere. I was just like,
that was in May.
Of this year?
Yeah. That was in May of this year, you know. Funny. So as I mentioned before, I always say Jamaica is for Jamaicans. You know, you need to go out and, you know, learn your country. I don't think Jamaicans realize how blessed they are to live on the island of Jamaica. You know, some people be like, oh, you know, this thing on social media. I'm so glad I was born in Jamaica. But like, the more I travel, and people be like, oh, would you ever leave Jamaica? Never. First of all, I don't want to live outside of Montego Bay. And it's just like, the more I travel, is the more. I mean, I've always loved and appreciated Jamaica, but the more I travel, is the more I love and appreciate even more.
Because you keep discovering
even
new
from
places.
Food to other stuff. And because I did a Caribbean cruise last year, October. And it went to St. Martin, Antigua, St. Lucia, Barbados, and Dominica. Again, guys, there's a whole playlist out there with that, so you can check it out. And I did that Caribbean cruise, and you know, you go to one island, they have a lot of beaches, no rivers. You go to the other island, a lot of rivers and waterfall, no beaches. And there's so many other islands that they don't have those stuff. And I remember because Antigua has 365 beaches. But on the other hand, Dominica has 365 rivers, no beaches. Right? So Antigua has beaches, no rivers. Not Dominican Republic, Dominica has 365 rivers, no beaches. And I remember, and I was like, imagine if I lived on an island where I had no river to go to. I don't know, just going by the river, being in the water, it just eases me and just does something. It just feels nice. And I was just like, when you look at that, and Dominica sits on 9 volcanoes. Yeah, we don't have no volcanoes. We don't have no poisonous snakes or anything like that. We have nice, beautiful beaches. Because some of these other islands that have the beaches, it's mostly dark sand beaches or the beaches from because they're on the volcanic residue. So we don't
So
have
not
none
like
of
us
that.
black sun.
So we have it all here in Jamaica, and you'll have people that live on one side of the island and they'll never see the other side. You have people living in
Facts.
Kingston, they've never been to Negril.
Facts.
They've never imagine never witnessing the sunset on the
And
west
Negril?
side. Not even just Negril, the
No.
west side. Like I drive every day, and every time I see the sun setting, sometimes depending on where I will pull over and I look at the sunset. It is absolutely beautiful, right? It's absolutely beautiful. So, you know, it's just so much to go out and see. In Trelawney, you have the Luminous Lagoon. I mean, you go out there and you see the people always just water that glows, but that is crazy that we have that. We like you go out in the water is glowing at night, it's glowing blue. You have all of these beautiful waterfalls in Portland. Like every step you step, there's just beautiful water. I would not lie to you. I do love Montego Bay St. James, but I'm not biased. Portland for me is the most beautiful parish. They have a lot of waterfalls, they have a lot of rivers, they have a lot of beaches. It's untouched. That's what I love the most. It's
On top.
down there is not too developed, and the people just
Nice little country vibe.
nice little country vibe. Some of them maybe they don't even want it down there. Some of them, but it's nice. You come back down here, Negril, 7 Mile Beach. It's just laid back, chill. I think the slogan for Negril is the capital of casual. Down there, it's very casual. Montego Bay, we have Doctor's Cave. It's just so much places to see. When you go to Kingston, Kingston has a lot of parties and a lot of
Entertainment
different
capital.
restaurants because Kingston has the universities and all of those corporate business areas. There's a nice melting pot in Kingston of other Caribbean countries, so you can experience other cuisines. There's a lot of places for you to eat out in Kingston, a lot of things for you to do throughout the night, different parties and stuff. A lot of ways for you to spend your money in Kingston. you know?
That's a good one.
Yeah, you come back down to Manchester, Clarendon as well. St. Elizabeth. St. Elizabeth is so beautiful. I wish the roads were better, but St. Elizabeth has a lot as well where you can go and explore, the Black River Safari Tour with the crocodiles, Wyeth Falls,
This is a
Happy
crocodile thing
Tour.
creepy. I mean, we're talking about reptiles here that
Yeah, well, again, what works for you? Some people don't like rivers or waterfalls. Some of them like beaches. Some people like nature trails, and then hidden gems. I love exploring and going far up in the hills and finding a new waterfall or a new hidden gem. I remember climbing down a ladder up in the hills of, I think it's Freeman Fall in Trelawney, down into a place called Quash River Sink. The ladder is like on the edge of a cliff. If you fall off of the ladder, you're dead. But it's so nice and adventurous.
hold on, hold on, hold on. I think about what you just said. You're just telling us that, hey,
But that's a hidden gem. I'm not saying
like-
that's something you must see. Again, guys, I have the videos out there. You must watch and decide if that's something that you want to do, right?
is it the adrenaline rush?
It's just adventurous. It's like you just feel alive. Like with the clip is swing off a Spanish bridge. There's just
Spanish Bridge is
something.
fun.
It's just like it's like almost when you feel like you're on the near verge of dying, but you didn't. You just feel alive.
So what if you do that? Because a lot of people will ask.
You would have
what if you
lived
do-
a full life. You would have lived a life where you were fearful of trying anything.
I don't think a lot
A
of
lot of
people will
people live their
agree
life-
with you on that one.
Well, and again, that's where we differ. A lot of people live their life. They've never tried anything new. They've never done anything out of the norm. Again, in fear. That's why my tattoo says my fear is my only courage. So, everybody's different, but there's a lot of places to explore in Jamaica.
So Amanda's 876 Adventures incorporates all of what you just described.
Yeah,
The food places.
right, yeah. Like I said, the local trips to some of these different places. There are so many places that people have never been. And then, the tours with the foreigners, it depends on what it is that they want to do. That's all I tell my clients. When they reach out to me, I'm just like, what is it that you're interested in? What do you want to do? And then I'll put together an itinerary based on where you're staying. I provide you with the costs for the excursions and the transportation costs. And then, we go from there. Because, I tend to try and tailor my the tours to what the client wants, and also, again, what works best for them, based on the time frame that they will be here. You get me? Because when I travel, I would do my research and I'll be like, oh, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to see. And when I do that, I would want somebody to tailor it based on what I want. I don't like when people are shoving some things no matter, oh, do this, do that. No, 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 no. You get me? One of the few other things that and again, my aim is for people to see Jamaica and see the beauty and the code, the cultural aspect of it. I've been doing a street food tour. I've done several vlogs on the street food, several street food vlogs, and from the vlogs, a lot of people reach out to me, say that they want to do this exact same tour. That tour just involves me bringing them from point A to point B, showing them different food stops, things that they won't get at the hotel. Pepper shrimp, curry crab, pudding, some authentic jerk chicken,
Pan chicken.
patties, stuff like that. So it just depends. And most of what I've said, there 9 out of 10, there's a vlog for it.
Your tour packages. Like you curate these packages, I guess tailored per customer.
Right. So that's what I just said. It depends on what it is that you want to do and where you're staying. Right. So I don't have one direct tour package that says ATV, this and that, that's what it costs. No, because if you're staying in Negril, the ATV down that side might be different in cost than the ATV in Montego Bay or even Ocho Rios. So if you come to me and you tell me where you're staying, right? And you say, oh, you want to do ATV, jet ski, waterfall, I group you based on what's close by, provide you with the cost for those excursions, and then provide you with the cost for transportation. And then we move from there.
Okay. Where could potential customers go and look you up? How they get in touch with you?
All right, so
Your
on
pages.
Instagram, Amanda's Exotic Adventures. All right. Amanda's Exotic Adventures. On that Instagram page, you could DM me. My WhatsApp is there as well. There's also email. I respond quicker to WhatsApp and Instagram DMs than I do to emails, if I'm being honest. I don't know, something about emails, it just never caught on with me, but I do check them, not as often as the WhatsApp and the Instagram. Something I'm working on, when I get somebody to manage the emails again. And I do have a website. So when you go on the website, you see the costs for the tours. And then from there, you see book here. When you click on book here, a drop form will come up. The drop form is going to have all the necessary information that I need if you're going to be a client of mine. You fill it out and then we'll respond to you. I will move from there.
And 806 Adventures. All right, cool. In closing, what's one huge common misconception about being a doctor? Because with all of this being said that we've covered, truth is, you're a trained professional to diagnose and treat. But here you are exploring a passion completely outside of all of that.
I think
Right? You are building your business, you're growing outside of what you were professionally trained to do. And I think there are a lot of misconceptions surrounding being a doctor. I mean, a very common one is, oh, doctors make all the money. I hear that all the time. I hear that all the time. Looking at both sides of the coin for you, someone who have been inside and outside of medicine, you've been on both sides of the table.
Yeah.
So you have leverage to speak over someone who's been only on one side of the table. What would you say is a common misconception about being a doctor?
Touching on the one that
Especially-
you said about misconception about doctors make a lot of money. You see, as I mentioned before with that, everybody's at a different point in their life depending on what responsibilities they have. So one, the amount of tax that comes out of doctors' pay is way higher than anybody. Let's start right there, especially they work for the government. They just take it, right? So that's the first. Right? The taxes, it's a lot. So that's one. Two, again, like I mentioned before, a lot of people, some of them have student loan, car loan, this loan, whatever. So the kids, mortgage, I don't have none of that. So, the concept that doctors make a lot of money depends on the doctor, to be honest. Because if you have two persons could be making the exact same amount of money and one person has way less because of their responsibilities, and that's just a reality.
That's facts.
You get me? So, and one of the misconceptions for some people is that some people might think some of the doctors don't care, but I'll get personal to where I'll say it's a lot, and I think people need to. Some people will never. Some people in like in society, they think because doctors make this amount of money, this is what you sign up for. And this is it, like get me.
Treat you like you're not human.
Yeah, nothing with no, not necessarily that, but like, the burnout and the hours that doctors work, it's hard. It's hard, and I think sometimes we need the patients and the relatives to have more compassion towards doctors and nurses and the other staff, the porters, the PCAs, the security guards that they meet at the front. They all form a part of the hospital. Because let me give you an example. When I was on internal medicine as an intern, right? I don't remember now. I said I worked at Corner Regional. When I started working at Corner Regional, that was the year when they had moved everything off of the main building, and there were just containers all over the place.
Right, I remember that.
There's no one building. Everything is all over the place. You get me? A&E's up here, the wards is all the way down there. Working at Cornwall is like a marathon. You're fit at that field as an intern. You run from point A to point B. You have patients that are admitted, but there's no bed space. So they're in A&E, and you have patients who are admitted who are actually on the wards. So you have to be going between A&E and on the wards. I remember it was in January. I was an intern. I was an intern on call. I had a co-intern, but unfortunately at that time, that co-intern had lost a parent. So for the most part, right, there was three or four medicine specialties, and I remember, it was all other internal medicine firm had 3 interns, and for me it was just me and the other intern, and then that intern lost the parent. So what everybody else had 3 interns, it was just me alone. They got some new interns that came, and they did not put that one of those new interns up with me, They went on the other firm because one of the firm was Rena and something with Rena, right? Internal medicine. I ran from point A to point B, and guess what? I was on internal medicine in January. It's one of the worst times to be on internal medicine.
Why?
Because every single patient who probably have hypertension or diabetes are going to stop taking their medication or stop being cautious of whatever they're doing over the Christmas to, indulge. You get me? Everybody want a Christmas cake and the cereal and the ham and the this and the that. And I remember being on call, and I was, and like I said, A&E's up here, wards down there, back and forth, up and down, around the world. And when you're on call and somebody's coding, they call the doctor. And you run go, the pump chest, you do CPR, you do everything, and you're done, you pronounce. When you pronounce, you have to call the relative, you have to document that you call the relative, you call them and you never get them, you document, you call them, you never get them. I remember I already pronounced 5 persons in one night. Wow. And I pronounced 5 persons, and then you're running back and forth as if you're in a code pumping chest and your phone is ringing. And then by the time I was on the 6th code,
in one night?
One night, man. I come over and I reach back to the ward because they were calling me. By the time I reach back, I was doing with one course. By the time I run from A&E, come back over to the other ward and whatever. The relatives were there. Oh, they were calling you, where are you, Again, sometimes when they see you, they don't see you with their relative. They don't know what you were doing beforehand. They don't know how exhausted you are. They don't know how many hours you've been putting in or not putting in. Or,
It's in that moment.
Because, and there's a lot of emotions as well. There's a lot of emotions at play. So sometimes you can't blame them, Right? Your relative is dying. You call the doctor, you tell the doctor, you call the doctor, you tell the doctor. And this is what I talk about, saying that we could have more doctors being on call. But at the end of the day, everything come back to money, because if I'm working, you're going to have to pay me. Right? And it would be better if you had multiple doctors working and less burnt out, because money isn't everything, Money isn't everything, and that people will not say it is not everything, because having time can be spent with yourself, having time can just sleep throughout the night, having time can sit down with your family, your relatives, and stuff like that. It is, for me, that's way more valuable, because truth be told, if it was just money, would I just stay in a medicine and not struggle or whatever, right? Because I wanted to live a life where I could have time to do other stuff that I wanted to do. You get me? So back to the original question about misconception. Some of the misconception is just that sometimes people think that you don't care and that you're just there just because. Sometimes you're just so tired. It's just a long shot. And after those relatives came and they saw me, and they gave me an earful. Where were you? Da, 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 ra, da, 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 da. And by the time they're cursing me out and doing that, my face is just like. And then that's gonna come off as me having an attitude. I do have attitude. I'm tired. I'm overworked.
Did that really?
I am. Yeah, he died. I am just coded 5 patients. This is a 6 code. They don't know that. They don't want to hear that either. They don't want to hear that.
They wouldn't care.
Even if I said it, they wouldn't process it.
They wouldn't care.
Even if I said it, they would not process it. And I want you to know I had another code that night. I did 7 patients. I pronounced 7 patients in one night. Write them up. That's 7 relatives have to call and say, "Hi, my name is Dr. Bowen. I'm just, I don't mean to do this over the phone, especially if you come in, this, that, and the third, but your relative didn't have me." By the time we reach number 3, tired. There's no compassion in my voice. There's no nothing. I'm tired. I am just tired. It is inhumane for people to be up, running around right throughout the night. Inhumane. And then on top of that, when you're finished doing your call, this is something I would never understand. I would never want to go back to. When you're finished doing your call, which goes from, remember, for persons who don't fully understand, when you're on call, your regular hours is 8 to 4. That's the regular work hours. Your call starts at 4 p.m. So from 4 p.m. go right back to 8 a.m. Those 16 hours are yours. When you're finished doing those 16 hours, it doesn't finish right there now. You still have your regular 8 to 4 to go back to, You have to go back to, you have to be at work from 8 to 4 again. You finish the next day technically. You're exhausted.
So how much days consistently do you do that, or consecutively?
Well, it depends on how much they put you on. It depends on the staffing. I remember when I just started PEDS as an SHO at the time. At that time, I had some seniors. Everybody was going off to residency program, and everybody was leaving there, and doing anything. I was on call 6 days straight. 6 days straight on a nursery. Luckily, it wasn't that bad for some of the nights, but I was on call 6 days straight because they were short staffed. There wasn't anybody there. People they got accepted into the program. Oh my God, congratulations. And I'm happy for you. They had to leave early. They had to leave early to go to Kingston for their programs. And I was the only SHO working at the time. Somebody had to work. I worked 6 days straight on the NICU. You get me? When you're on some other places, you'll be on call for 48 hours. It's usually that was just one time. There's usually 48 hours, like a full weekend. You will be on call a full weekend, Saturday, Sunday. And then you come back again. When you finish Sunday, you work 8 to 4. You get me? And then sometimes you complain, you talk about the hours, you talk about needing stuff, you talk about we need to look into certain stuff, because it's just like sometimes every year come when residents should leave to go into programs or whatever, everybody acts brand new with the rota. Oh, they're gonna go. But we already knew they were going. They literally had to ask you guys for recommendations. So why is it that we're acting brand new as if we never saw this coming? You get me? And as I say, I just took a step back, and I don't want to live my life like this. I do not want to live my life like this. And I made a plan, and I decided that I'm gonna put my time and energy in me. Put my time and energy in something that I'm gonna do for myself and leave, because the hospital doesn't start and end with me. And if I drop down and dead today, they're gonna replace me tomorrow. And you cannot blame them. It's a business. It's a hospital. It has to keep running. So you must decide if you want to give all of your best years to that hospital.
That happens all the time.
Right? Are you gonna give all of the best years? Nothing is wrong with working at the hospital, working at doing medicine, but just have boundaries. Set boundaries. Try and balance your life. Set aside time for yourself. Be selfish. I think that's one thing that some doctors don't know how to do, is to be selfish. Think about everybody else. They think about the kids, they think about the family, they think about the parents, the husband, the wife, the bills, the this and that. Think about yourself first. For a change. What do you want to do? Yeah? How do you want to live your life? Is this the way you want to live your life? Is this the trajectory that you want your life to go down? Make a decision. Yes, then continue. No, see what can change. How you can improve it. How you can work around certain stuff. Sometimes it's just that simple, Sometimes.
I read this thing once. So I read a lot, right? And I
Mm.
do a lot of research. I read this thing once that came from Steve Jobs, I
Mm-hmm.
think in one of his popular speeches. And it says that when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself, if you had only one day to live, would you be doing what you're about to do now?
Yeah.
If the answer to that question is no for several days consistently, then something needs to change. I think it says it was like 7 days or a week. You have to ask yourself that same question every morning for like a week or two. And if the answer is no for more times, then something needs to change. And I think that is directly related to kind of what you just said. Yeah.
Yeah, I just, yeah, I remember being on call one night on Peds, and there was this one little girl. I was on the NICU at the time. I was on the wards, and I was struggling to cite an access on that little girl. I'm telling you, I was just struggle bus right through. I was so tired. I was so tired, and I had to call the consultant. When you're resident on call, you don't necessarily want to call your consultant, but it got to that point after hours of trying, to be like, this makes no sense to call the consultant. And it was like 3 a.m. A consultant came out. She was struggling too. We were all struggling. Eventually, I had to do an intraosseous, you know, and
What's an intraosseous
oh,
for the layman?
instead of inserting the access into the vein, you insert it into the bone, right?
Okay.
And after seeing her out there struggling, I looked at the time and I was like, bro, like it's like she's like you're in your 50s or close 60s, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be getting out of your bed to come out here to site and access. I'm just like, bro, I do not want to live like this. Like I, I do not. I like this is not my goal in life. I do not. Crazy. 3 a.m. No,
I mean, that would that person fall under the category of someone who's really passionate?
she loves it. She is one doctor I can definitely say love pediatrics. It was her for sure. Right through. Definitely, 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 definitely. Fly high or fly low. She loves medicine. Without a doubt.
She
Them
found
they
her passion.
yeah, them they breed and love for medicine, what she have me never have it. Me never have it at all.
Amanda, thank you. So I'm building this tradition where each guest leave a question for the next guest, not knowing who the next guest is. And for you, your question is relatively easy based on what you shared thus far. I'm gonna read the question to you anyways. I think this should be easy. The question reads, what or when was the last time you had an experience outside the realm of medicine that impacted your life positively or negatively and redirected your course of life?
Oh yeah, my life that.
That's an easy one for you, ain't it?
Yeah, funny enough, and as much as I mentioned that I left, my contract ended in June of 2022. I was still doing. Eventually, I was doing some calls. I was still, but it wasn't often. I would do like calls. Like say, I would do like 2 duties in like September. I did 2 in October, November, whatever. Throughout 2022, I was doing that. And then I was doing it in January 2023. January came, I was doing it. I was on call. It was one night in January, the 24th to be exact. And I just came to the nursery. I was on call. It was 1 hour. And then my dad called me and he was just like, oh, he found his brother, my uncle, and told him to meet me. And he was like, oh, I'm finding him now, move. And he said, I'm coming up to Annie. And I went up to Annie. And my uncle was there and he was dead. And I I haven't practiced medicine since that. It was such an out of body experience. Because being in medicine, you see dead people all the time. You see naked people, you see dead people, but when it's something that's unexpected and it's your relative, like it hits you. It hits you like a ton of bricks. You know. So after that I've never actually practiced medicine again. You know. Sometimes you're just there, you're just like, why is this a sign? Everything I'm just like, is this a sign? Is this a sign? Is this a sign? But I just never, at the time, I just never had just never wanted to go back over there. I was just like, yo, I took it as a sign. I was literally 1 hour in the duty, 1 hour just started. And I had to call the consultant and be like, this is what happened. I can't do it. Like, like we have to be going to the police station now, blah, 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 whatever, whatever. But, that time, in terms of what have impacted my life, it's just being out there, living life, being able to be there. It's the little things that I appreciate, like the 8 hours of sleep, the slow mornings. I can sleep, wake up, make breakfast, So even when I do my tours, I don't I tell my clients I'll pick them up at 10 or 11. That means I have time to wake up, can go walk in the morning with my friends, or I can go to the gym, or I'll sleep in, one out of the three. And then I pick them up at 10 o'clock. Again, they're on vacation. They don't want to be waking up early. I want the rest, So those are the things I do not take for granted. Being a slow morning, being able to go to the gym, being able to spend time with family and relatives. If a friend link me and say, oh man, no, we're going to go to Panama. I'm not feel ask somebody for no time off. I love that for me. Not feel put in what them call it? PTO, yeah, or whatever. Yeah, put in. No, I'm gonna go. I'll be there. Again,
It's the glow on your face when you say that.
I'll be there. I'm gonna bask in it because no, I tell somebody other day, these are my selfish years, and I'm gonna bask in them while I can because eventually when I start having children, my life is gonna be all about my children, and that's why I say for me it might be different from others because when you have responsibilities and stuff to pay back, and it's like a noose around your neck with some of these people with the loan, all of the different loans and stuff that they have. I think that's one of the biggest hindrance for them, But, and again, when I remember being on PEDS, when I was on PEDS, again, not a lot of people like pediatrics. You had to work one of those days, either Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, New Year's Eve, or New Year's Day. I hated it. I hated it so much. I'm just like, big. I don't want to work none of those days. But everybody had to work one of those days regardless. I mean, truth be told, with children at that time, nobody's trying to come into the hospital at that time. But if you had somebody, they would have been extremely sick because it's going to take a lot for somebody to want to go to the hospital on those days. But I hated that. I hated having to choose which one. I'm somebody, I have a big family. We're always celebrating something. And I hated that I would always have to be the one missing these events. But no, I don't. Now I host these events. And that's something I don't take for granted. The sleep, being able to sleep in, being able to travel when I want to travel, being able to spend quality time with the family. And, those are the stuff when I tell people that money isn't everything, right? Those things, being able to do them and, those things, they matter more. To me, at least, they matter more. Because, by the time you're quint, you wake up and life passes by. Being able to travel and see different parts of the world for me, that's something I love. And being able to come back and share with other persons as well. Yeah.
Amanda, thank you. I really believe you are on the path of changing the world for a lot of people. Really and truly, I appreciate you taking the time out to share this story with us. We're definitely going to need a follow-up because I'm pretty sure there are going to be some questions and
Right. Yeah.
some comments for you because even though I never directly worked in your system, I've worked around on the outskirts of your system and I've had the opportunity to see some of these things firsthand that does happen. I have friends, I have colleagues that goes through it, and some get out, some doesn't get out. So I have a good idea as to what happens there. And I see where you can be that Martin Luther King. For a lot of people. But in terms of your business, keep growing. At some point, we do need to talk about the trips because I haven't been on any of your trips. I can come around to be a paparazzi for a few days, a few of your trips. I want to be a paparazzi because I also, even in the midst of all of this, it's a growing process for everybody. And you live and you learn from each other. Right. And there are things I'm still willing to learn from you in terms of running your business. My business might not be your business, but hey, there's certain underlying concepts of operating a business or being an entrepreneur.
That's pretty fundamental. Right.
Pretty fundamental. And I always say success leave trails. Success always leave trails.
Yeah.
So if you want to be successful, follow someone that's successful or study their path or whatever it is. So I'm looking forward to episode 2. At some point soon. I'm looking forward to season 2.
Yeah, man, definitely. And remember, guys, check out my YouTube channel, like, share, comment, subscribe, watch the ads, right? Remember, get some ads too, and eventually get them, watch the ad, and then every make them come up, huh? Yeah?
We'll put them out. We'll definitely put them
Yeah.
out in coming weeks.
Yeah.
And
Check
that's
out,
about
check out the different ads and stuff like that.